We should be.
Is it?
At least
I think we're live.
Streaming live.
Okay, hallelujah. Well, today is a special day because this is what? Season 5. And we've been here for a long time. It seems like a long time. I can't believe we're on the 5th one and we only started in 2020. Oh, well, actually 2 years. But yes, so we have to introduce the group. Okay, so next to me, I believe, is my sister Maggie. Say hello to the people.
Hey, people.
Yes, and my sister below me is Miss Tanya. Say hello to the people.
Hey.
Yes, because Happy New Year and all that, because we haven't seen you since last year. So Happy New Year, be safe and all those things. I'm gonna say this, I'm so excited. When I was thinking about people to invite on here to give us some love and life and guidance, I went back to our childhood and I went to the people that we actually would listen to more than, sometimes when our parents would try to tell us some things, we would listen to her because she gave it to us a little bit more spicy. So this is Miss Janice. I love you, Miss Gibson.
Thank you. I love you too.
Yes, but it's Miss Gibson. So Miss Gibson, tell us what's going on in your world. Say hello to the people.
Well, hi everyone. I am so excited to be with you ladies. It's wonderful seeing you as adult women. And yeah, it really is. And what is so exciting is that you've grown enough and you've lived enough life to see things from a whole nother perspective. And so that broadens your ability to take it all in, you know what I mean? And it gives you the opportunity to shift, because what you learn, I think, as you mature is that your understanding of what you were learning as a child or even as a pre-adult was not quite, the interpretation that you put on what you were learning was not quite accurate. And not that it was wrong, it was just incomplete, you see? And what made it incomplete was the lack of life experience. So it's kind of like, when you go to Sunday school and you learn, a lot of stuff in Sunday school and then as a little child, and then you become an adult and you understand that what they were saying was kind of right, but it was leaving out some important information.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? It's kind of like the analogy that I like to use is it's kind of like reading books about giving birth, and they give you all the details, but they don't give you the whole story, And once you go through the experience, you're like, okay, so yeah, the details were accurate, but they didn't tell me this part. You see, and they couldn't because it was an intangible that you had to experience from living. And so I just so embrace you ladies. I am just so excited to see what you're doing and to see the joy in your face. And I'm loving the sisterhood. I grew up with a bunch of guys, my brother, my cousins and so forth. My sister was a little older than me. And she was all into baby dolls and tea parties and all that kind of stuff. I was into climbing trees and shooting guns and, wrestling. That just wasn't it. And so I did not develop a real sisterhood with other ladies. Victoria used to tell your mom, I'm just not I'm a girly girl, but I just don't have girlfriends. Most of my friends are guys. And so I just think it's just so beautiful that you all have each other and that you've been together. It's a wonderful thing. I kind of envy that a little bit. I still have a couple of friends that we've been friends since college, and 1 or 2 since high school. But I never had girlfriends that I could hang out with and really enjoy. And I just kind of got on my nerves a little bit.
Miss Gibson, you got me. I got some questions about this.
We
girlfriends already.
But you know what, thing? Let me tell you, you all are adults. Nothing is off limits. Go for it.
Boom.
So when you're talking about you don't have that many girlfriends, you grew up with guy friends. Okay, so that was in your younger days, or maybe even in your college days even. Do you still believe that that women and men can have true friendships, even though now that you're married, have children of your own, would you say men and women can truly be friends? Or do you think a woman might be saying too much if she, meets a guy and says, I don't think too many men can be friends with women, and let alone my man or my husband, shouldn't be having any women friends because you should be coming to me. What's your take? What's your take on that? Because I kind of, we've heard that.
You know what? I firmly believe that adult men and women can be friends. I also believe that there are reasonable boundaries. As a married woman,
That's right.
If my husband had a friend that he's been friends with all of his life, I don't have a problem with that. This is where the caution flags go up. If you find that you have got to hide the conversations, if you feel like you've got to hide that there are confidentialities about not just about your relationship, but about anything that your wife is that you don't feel comfortable with your wife seeing, then there's a problem. Not that there's anything going on. The problem is in your perception of your relationship with your spouse and the relationship with the friend. So in a successful, in a happy, strong relationship, whether it's a marriage relationship or even if you're dating, if the trust level has not been earned in that relationship, there's no foundation to work from. So let's say you meet someone and they have had a friend, a girlfriend, or if it's a guy and he's had a friend that's a female that they've been friends with all their lives. But that female friend feels the need to compete for space with that guy, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the friend of the guy wants to be romantically involved with the guy, but there is a boundary that person doesn't respect or understand. And that boundary is that they have a friendship, but that friendship doesn't interfere, nor does it compete from a maturity standpoint, doesn't compete from a romantic relationship. So if that friend is feeling the need to compete with that girlfriend, it's because that friend is not feeling secure in the nature of their relationship and is feeling the need to control. So if the friend is needing to control that guy's interaction with his girlfriend, she's out of line. And it's the responsibility of that guy to say to the friend, look, you're out of line. This is my woman.
Mm-hmm.
This is my lover. You're my friend. And we have been friends for years. And that's not going to change. I love you. We're like sister and brother. I love you dearly. But if you cross this line, then we got a problem.
It sounds
Now,
like
if your man has a problem doing that, then he's the one out of line. And all you have to do, you don't have to say a word. All you have to do is just step back. You don't have to say, okay, it's me or her. If you've got to make that determination, then he has the wrong perception of your relationship in the first place. You remember that when you are in a relationship with a man, you are always the one in control of the relationship. You're always, whether you understand that or not, you're always in control of the relationship. Not because you have control over him, but because you have control over you. You see what I'm saying?
Oh.
So if you meet someone, you are never in competition with anybody else in their lives. It is his responsibility to draw the lines of distinction. And if he is unwilling or incapable of doing that, then he needs to grow up and you need to step back until he does. You don't have to instruct him like, well, you better get her straight. No, if you need to say all of that, then he's not ready for you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have a
Remember,
question.
you're in control of the relationship.
So what if what if the man,
Uh-huh.
what if he doesn't understand boundaries, meaning he never saw that or dealt with that or understand that? So I get it, you don't have to tell them, but how do you express in a manner that either this is what you expect, or maybe in you falling back, does that communicate a message? Because a lot of times we have people on here and say, everybody wasn't raised the same. Clearly, we all have different experiences. And sometimes women or me, we think we have communicated something, but we really haven't clearly communicated to a point where they can understand what we are trying to ask, or you know what I mean? So what do you do in that instance?
So in that particular situation, you have to be willing to communicate clearly. So what you have to do is you have to implement what I call call and response. Like in the old churches, that the deacon would call out the line to the song, and then everybody sing that line to the song.
Yes.
Well, all right. So in this particular situation, you're beginning to date someone. You have not become sexually intimate yet, but you're kind of feeling each other. The atmosphere is kind of producing the possibility of that kind of environment. Before you jump into that, you need to have some important conversations. One of the conversations you have is, what have your other relationships been like? And you're not asking for all of the gory details. You're wanting to get a feel for that person's understanding of what an intimate relationship looks like. And if the only thing he can say is that, we hang out, we have a good time, sometimes we have sex or we go out or whatever. If that's all they can say, then he's not ready. And so then you have to ask a different question. You have to ask, so how do you feel about whatever your perceived challenge may be? How do you feel about coming over unannounced? What do you feel about wanting to look at my phone or check my messages? What do you feel about, just ask those questions, because it is better to ask those questions before any kind of intimate conversation or interactions take place than afterward. Because once you become sexually engaged, your perceptions get distorted. So before you start getting all saucy and stuff, while you still have a cool head, then you put you get all the information out there. See, nothing has changed since 11th and 12th grade, right?
Nothing.
You remember when we used to lock the classroom door, and then you all could ask me anything you wanted to? Well, this is the adult version. This is the adult version of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't wait until all of your emotions, because as women, we give all. It's not just a sexual encounter. It is a sharing of all of who we are. We're not just having fun. Well, we're having fun too, but you understand that the depth of what we're talking about is deeper than that.
Mhm.
And so you get all, don't be afraid to dig out all the cobwebs while you have an opportunity to walk away clean, or you may choose not to walk away, but to work on some things if the person seems capable and interested in working them out. You see, a lot of times we may be asking something of a person that they are incapable of giving, not because they don't want to, but they just don't understand. And I think, Maggie, that's what you're saying. If a person has been brought up in an environment where they never saw healthy relationships, they never saw relationships where respect was given and received, where honoring was not given and received, then they don't know that. And you might say, well, you're 35, 40 years old, you ought to know something. You've been living, where have you been?
Right.
But their perspective has not been tapped in a way that expands their understanding. So it's like, you know, there, I know in some circles, it's like you be the example of what you want, you know. So if you want them to be loving and giving, you are loving and giving. Well, that's a waste of time if the person doesn't understand what loving and giving is. You just,
Agreed.
you know, you just were being a nice person. You see what I'm saying? But if the person has a kind heart and the kind of spirit that says, you know, I want to do better. You teach, help me understand. Then they're open to you saying, you know, I really enjoy your company, but you can't come over here without calling and without my inviting you. You can't just answer my phone or or go through my things. That's inappropriate and it's disrespectful and it is not allowed. And so, do you understand that? And so they may say, yes, they understand it. And every once in a while, you may have to check them because it is so much the habit not to respect those boundaries. But out of wanting to grow and be better, they will start to respect those boundaries. Now, if you have on the other hand, if you have a person that feels like there's this old thing called male privilege. You don't hear so much about it now, but it's very much in action now. And male privilege not only was an old term that kind of ruled my parents' generation. So let's say from the early 1900s, all the way, it was strongly indoctrinated in the lives of men. And this is what the male privilege says. It says that men can do whatever they want. Women do what the men tell the women that they can do, basically. Now, in modern days, that takes on a different appearance. So you get married or you start dating. And so the guy expecting you to be very ladylike and, you know, whatever that means nowadays, but, you know, kind of ladylike and, you know, you go out and you're nice and demure. You're not really talking to a lot of people, you know, you're just letting him shine. And every once in a while he refers back to you, you know, whatever. But, and then when you get married, what it looks like is you're home, you're cooking, you're taking care of the children, you're cleaning the house, and he goes to work, and then he comes home and brings a piece of money home, and then he goes out and does whatever he wants to do, and you don't get to ask, well, where are you going in terms of accountability? That's what male privilege is. Okay. Now, even though, you know, it's taken on a different form, the mentality is still there. So there are a lot of young men now who were raised either by women that were indoctrinated by that same mentality, and because there was no man in the house, or there was a man in the house that promoted that same foolishness. So they may not understand respect and boundaries because they didn't see it. They saw their fathers put their foot down and say, I'm the man of this house, this is how it's gonna be. There are no boundaries. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, the best thing you can do if you want to be happy in a relationship is be true to you. Not try to figure out who that man wants you to be. That's his problem. How he wants you to be is his problem. That's his picture. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't fall in love with who he wants you to be. He fell in love with who you are. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And often when we enter into relationships, we have unexpressed expectations, you know, that were generally, for the most part, was created in our own heads that have no basis in reality whatsoever. They're based on, as children, we see our parents and we think we understand as children the dynamics of their relationship, right? So we create these stories, we tell ourselves about how we want our relationships to be, but it's based on incomplete information. It's based on information we told ourselves from the perspective of a young child, as opposed to the perspective of a woman. I am sure that as an adult, you see your parents' relationship differently than you did when you were a child. There, because there's a whole lot of dynamics that takes place that you don't have privilege to, nor do you have the capacity to accurately interpret it. You see? So everybody's coming with a fresh slate. I mean, you have to, everybody has to throw the baggage, leave the baggage outdoors. And so you will, even though that person may not have an understanding of boundaries, you may not have an understanding of compromise or whatever else. And that's what makes the relationship so dynamic, the give and take in working out all of these details. That's also why there's a lot of divorce, because a lot of people come to a marriage not understanding that they've got just as much baggage as the other person, just as many preconceived notions as the other person. And the other person's preconceived notions are as precious and important to them as yours are to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a real grown-up to handle marriage, and it takes a real grown-up to handle a strong, loving, intimate relationship, even if it's not in the boundaries of marriage.
See, I knew you were going to come with it. Thank you.
Yes.
I knew she was coming with it. So I have a question, because this keeps,
Okay.
I keep talking to these, whatever, I have these conversations, and this whole
Okay.
idea of submission.
Mm-hmm.
So submission, to me, where is the levels of submission with getting to know somebody and dating, and submission as a wife, and the levels of who is submitting to who, percentage of what? That's what I want to see your perspective.
In a dating relationship, there is no submission. There is no submission.
Mhm.
You have no obligation to someone you're dating. You're dating.
Mhm.
And not to be cavalier, but whoever you're dating, you're dating. That you're testing the waters. You're learning each other. Submission, my butt. There's no submission. There is no submission. But that person has no authority over you. They cannot have authority over you because they're not responsible for your life. Mm. They're going to go out, they're going to date you, you're going to talk on the phone, they're going to go to work, they're going to do what they do. If your life falls apart, if you need submission, no. When it comes to marriage, when it comes to marriage, submission is a choice. It is a choice. It is not an obligation. It has been taught in traditional churches and in traditional circles because it was self-serving to men, not because that's what Jesus said. Submission is about trust. And I submit to my husband, don't get me wrong. There is a place for it, but there is no obligation for it. That, so, all right. So, here I am. Okay.
How long you been married? People don't know. How long have you been married? How long have you been married?
Submission is a choice. And it is not, you're not obligated. There is no, just because you say I do at the altar doesn't obligate you to become a less than or a person who has no voice. And that's what has been taught in church, that submission is equivalent to not having a voice. That is not what submission is. Submission is yielding. And so that person that you choose to yield to, because they have shown themselves worthy of your trust, okay, gets the honor and the privilege of leading you, not because you can't lead yourself, not because you can't lead them, but because you choose to yield to and give them the position as your leader. Just because you say I do doesn't automatically make them your leader. Now, in a marriage is not 50-50. It is whatever the combination needs to be to make 100%. So sometimes, okay, So sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes it's 100-0, sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 60-40, but when it all settles out, it's 100%. And everybody is benefiting because of it. And that's not what was taught years ago in traditional churches. And I know a lot of the churches have evolved and they're growing and so forth, but in religious circles, that was not taught. Just because you say I do doesn't give that man the wisdom he needs to be effective as a leader. Why on earth are you going to follow a fool? Do you understand me? So submission is about choosing to yield to that person that you call your husband, because he has assumed and has expressed full responsibility for the well-being of his family and his home. You follow me? He is out there doing what he needs to do to secure the well-being and security of his family and his home. If that man is not doing that, why are you going to submit to that? That's craziness. And then you're going to go to God and be falling all down on the floor and being slain in the spirit every other week because you are looking for somebody to come make your husband do what he's supposed to do. Right. The scriptures clearly tell you in Proverbs that he gives you wisdom, common sense, and helps you to find the right decision every time. Remember that the scriptures say that in God there's no male or female, Greek nor Jew. You understand what I'm saying? And this is not just about the physical appearance. It's about the truth of who you are. It's like eating a pecan or peanut. Our physical being is like that shell of the nut, but the core of who we are is the nut inside of that shell. So that idea that the man is just because you said I do, all of a sudden capable of leading or worthy of your yielding to is a fallacy. It's not true. That doesn't mean that he can't grow into that position. It does mean that wisdom would require that if you have the skill set to manage the finances, for instance, then he's got to submit to your ability to do that, or he needs to. I'm not going to say he's got to. He needs to submit to that. If he has the ability to not only offer some level of protection, or he has the ability to bring a level of security that allows the family to feel safe and provide a space, then you as the partner, even though you may be more capable than he to provide financially, you yield to that level of leadership that he has. So that's where the submission is all about, yielding because you choose to, not because you're obligated to. Remember that before you got married or partnered with someone, you had your own personal relationship with God, your own covenant with God. And that covenant, God didn't say, okay, now I can only take care of you if you're with a man. No. And you have your own covenant relationship. And that personal relationship never yields to your relationship with him as part of a marriage or as part of a couple. You're always primary to God. And you're always his primary, he's your primary source of everything. So that man, you don't yield to that man, like I said, because he's got other body parts than you do. You yield to him because you choose to, because you've seen something in him worth yielding to. If you don't see anything in him worth yielding to, then you shouldn't have married him in the first place.
So I got a question.
Uh-huh.
You unpacked a lot in that
You
in that last answer. And Victoria, so two questions. Victoria said, let the people know, how long have you been married? Because
Yes.
you are a married woman.
Yes,
Yes, I've been married 40 years and my husband and I have been together 47 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my second question is, as you were unpacking that answer, you said, no, you don't submit while you're dating. And you don't necessarily submit when you're married because you might have married a fool. My question is, what are the phases of dating, or what is the phase to get to marriage? So like, I know things evolve, but how do you get to that knowing submission? Like, I just want to know the phases and how you get there, I guess.
Okay, all right. The number one thing is you hold off the sex as long as you can. Okay. So I know things are, are a little bit, no, okay, let me just tell you this. They say things are different now. They're not different. It's just that there's social media. So back in my parents' day, my parents were born in 1920. So in the 30s and the 40s, they were teenagers, and young adults, etc. Folks were sleeping around just as much then as they doing now, having babies with everybody's husband and all kinds of craziness, and and so, and everything was still being preached the way it is now, celibacy, no sex before marriage, and this and the other. And but the truth of the matter is that everything that's going on now was going on then. It's just that they may not have they didn't have the same kind of exposures. But this is, I think, the recipe for a really strong, happy relationship. Number one, resist the temptation to become sexually intimate. It clouds things. It clouds your ability to see accurately. The reason it clouds it is because, like I said before, as women, this is not just a physical act for us. It involves all of who we are, all of our senses, all of our imaginations, all of our fantasies, all of that. So as long as you can keep that out of the way, then your vision stays relatively clear, and so you have a little more, you have a greater ability to keep your mind in the game. I was listening to a blues song today that where I think Muddy Waters, somebody was saying that his mama told him, don't keep your head clear and your heart open, or something crazy like that. They have all kinds of stupid stuff. But anyway, so that's number one. And so when you're dating someone, you're on a fact-finding mission, not about about all of the gory details of their past. You're wanting to know about the heart and character of that person that you're with, because people have the right to change. They evolve. And so who a person was 5 years ago is not necessarily who they are today. But, and this is a really big but, their character, their sense of self, their ability to process information, their spiritual acumen, not their religious affiliations, but how do they see themselves in relationship to God? How willing are they to live out what they believe, or are they saying one thing and living another? Now, to some extent, we all do that at some low point in time, but on a consistent basis, are they true to who they are? That's the mission of dating. So you're going out and you're having fun, and you are feeling comfortable being all of who you are. What happens a lot of times is when you start to date, you're so concerned about being appealing to the other person that you mask who you really are. And that's one of the biggest problems that you have in dating. If you're going to date successfully, you've got to create an environment where both parties feel comfortable being who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so you go on some fun dates that allow you to talk allow you to observe. And as women, it is imperative that you develop your ability to observe, not just looking for what you're wanting to see, but looking for everything that is there, even if you don't know how to interpret it. An example would be you're out and about and he speaks to someone, or when you're having conversations, he's talking about maybe his siblings or his parents, or he may be talking about his buddies, and you're wanting to hear what are the kind of things are that you're saying about them. And then if you see that the majority of what he's saying has kind of a negative bend, then you know that you're dealing with a person that has a somewhat negative perspective on life. Is that going to be okay for you? And it may be. All the things that I'm saying is not about right or wrong. It's about your tolerance. What is okay for you? And so is this person a perfectionist? Is this person, if it's a perfectionist, is that going to be a problem for you? Is he going to be expecting as a perfectionist that you've got to rise up to his standard? As if he's God over you. If he's a perfectionist, does that leave room for you to be who you are? Because there's not a human being on the face of the earth that doesn't have some area in their life that needs some work. And so you take your time and you listen not with any filters. You just take it all in. And then when you all have partied for the evening, you start assessing it. You say, okay, I saw you did this. That was interesting. I heard he said this. That was interesting. We went out to eat and he had a problem with everything on the menu. Okay.
We talked about that in the other show.
He had a problem with everything on the menu. Okay. And he left a measly tip. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Or we went to this play and he talked through the whole play. He didn't even watch the play. Those are telltale signs. You know what that says? If you go to a play and he didn't watch the play, he lacks the maturity to be engaged. He lacks the maturity to choose to be fully present. So when you need to talk to him about something and he's not trying to woo you, is he going to be fully present with what you're saying? Or is he going to be so distracted with other stuff because what you're saying is irrelevant to him because he's not trying to be intimate with you anymore? You understand what I'm saying? You're paying all attention to all this stuff. If he leaves a little skimpy tip, why is that? Is he cheap? You don't want to be with somebody that's cheap.
Right.
Is he cheap? Does he not value the service that is being brought to him or being presented to him? If he's having a problem with everything on the menu, is he doing that because he has a misguided idea of of being important? Or does he have a problem there because he lacks exposure? Is he not open to new experiences? All he wants to eat is ham and green beans. He can't enjoy some asparagus or some snails or lobster or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? That's what dating is about. Does he have good manners? Is he gracious? Is he chivalrous? Is he so caught up in the new vernacular about things or the way you hang out that he doesn't know how to treat you as a woman, as a queen? Not just saying, oh, you my queen. Okay, so do you know how to open the door? Do you know how to create an environment so that I'm comfortable? I'm a queen, but you come pick me up and your car look like a trash bag. You can't even clean off the car seat. You see,
now, Ms. Gibson, some of that stuff takes some time. You getting to know somebody. So, do you believe in dating multiple men at one time? Would you say you should date multiple people at one time?
Absolutely.
Before we get saucy. How do you feel about women dating multiple people?
You date as many people as you want until you get a ring. And once you get the ring, not the promise of a ring, but once you get the ring, then you let everybody know, I've made a commitment, I've made a choice, and I've made a commitment, and we can't see each other anymore. I'm committed to growing this right now. But until you have the ring, not no promise of the ring. Y'all didn't just go shopping for the ring, but he has bought the ring and has presented you with the ring. Do you make that statement? You're not, look.
No committed relationships, Miss Gibson.
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, you're selling yourself short.
Okay.
She just said no.
You see, I'm telling you, you got to.
But I think that commitment part comes in, like you said, when you start, being saucy, where you have that expectation that they're only with you and you only with them, and that commitment level takes it to the notch.
But see, you know what happens, Tanya? Often, especially with the woman, that commitment starts way before they have talked about that commitment.
Right.
You go on 2 dates, and then all of a sudden, you ready to be exclusive.
Yeah.
And so the person might say something, like, I really like you. And in your mind, you didn't hear, I really like you. You heard, I want to be with you and only you.
Yep.
So you all committed.
That's what they
and they're like, well, what you talking about? And then you get all upset because they date other folk. Okay? I'm just telling you now, you don't want to do that. You want to remember you're in charge of the relationship.
See,
and
okay.
you're not trying to force anybody to perform in a way that they're not ready.
Amen.
When that person says, when you're on your fact-finding stage. The fact-finding stage don't mean you cut out all the applicants. When you apply for a job, do they just stop when they interview? You think they stop looking at other applicants? No. Don't do yourself like that. That doesn't mean you're sleeping with everybody. I mean, you're not a rotating door. What it means is that you are going through a selection process. There is no selection process if there's just one candidate. In order for there to be a selection process, there needs to be several from you to choose from. It's like 2 is not an option. You need 3 or more. And then you narrow it down. And you say, okay, this person is never prepared. This person is, usually disheveled. This person is not a good conversationalist. They don't listen well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you say, okay, but this person, they might be a little ragged, but he listens well. And he responds to what is actually being discussed. And he thinks about what he's saying. So that automatically eliminates the one who may be all pulled together physically, but doesn't listen to nothing and is always late or is always short of money. So he gets kicked to the curb. So now you're down to 2. All right. And so you're going out and say, both of them are fun. I enjoyed both of their companies, but it's something about this one. He has a little more of an adventurous nature, and I like that. He is not afraid to try something new. He's not afraid to give his honest opinion about or honest assessment about what he's expecting. This person over here, he's a lot of fun, but he's so safe. He wants to do the same thing all the time. He doesn't want to experiment and let's try going here or do something different. And I always get the feeling like he's just saying what he thinks I want him to say. All right. So then you've narrowed it down to 1 because you kicked that one to the curb. Because again, you need to feel safe being authentically you. If you're dealing with with a person who is comfortable being authentically themselves, then they will give you the space to be you.
Mm.
Now, and it's gonna be like sandpaper sometime, but eventually sandpaper smooths out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you have a good, honest working relationship. You aren't afraid to say, you know, you did that and I don't like that. That's just not gonna work. Let's come up with something better. Or he's not gonna be able to say, you know, you made that, you cooked that stuff, but it didn't taste too good. Let's try this, that, and the other. And you don't walk away with your feelings all hurt and he don't love me because he didn't like my mashed potatoes. You know,
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? That is really the process, Magdalene. That is that you're finding out about each other. And then when you narrow it down, one other thing about that, you already have your checklist of things that you're looking for in a partner, in a spouse, in a lover. You have that list of things that you're looking for. Don't immediately start modifying the list just because you think you ain't gonna find who it is. No, you got to know that you cannot imagine a person that God has not created. And you've got to know that whoever you have imagined has imagined you and is looking for you just like you're looking for them. So there's got to be a little shift in your consciousness that says that you're not waiting. You're in the meantime. Because you've already placed your order. It's like going to a restaurant. You look at the menu, you place your order. The meal is being prepared. And so in the meantime, you're having some hors d'oeuvres, maybe a cocktail, you know, you're going to the bathroom and freshening up your lipstick. You're having some good conversation. And then the meal arrives. The first course, maybe your salad, but the waiter, if you're at a really nice restaurant, they're watching you. You may not be aware of it. And they're saying, okay, the conversation says slow down. Let me bring them their salad. Okay, they're finished with their salad. Let me bring them their main course. And then they bring you the main course and they say, okay, they finished that. Okay, let me bring the dessert. They're not dumping it all on the table at one time. God isn't doing that either. You have put your order in. Now circumstances and situations are being created. He's got the angels on your behalf. You've already ordered who you wanted. Now, you haven't given all of the details because God is listening to your heart. You're saying you want tall, rich, smart, this, that, and the other. But your heart might be saying, I want someone that makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
I want someone that adores me and makes me feel like I am the most fabulous person that ever walked the face of the earth.
Yes.
I want someone who looks at me like I am strawberry cheesecake or whatever your favorite food is.
Right.
That's what your heart is saying.
Yes.
That's what your heart is saying. Now, that doesn't mean that God can't put it in the physical form that you're looking for.
Right.
But what it does mean is that you have put your order in with God and he has already created that person and that person is looking for you. But both of you are in the meantime. And so so while the meal is being prepared, you are just getting yourself together. You kind of tweak it a little bit. And you know how sometimes when you're at the restaurant and you say, okay, I said I wanted broccoli, but I really think I want asparagus. That's what happens in the meantime. You're tweaking it. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't change the overall order.
That's good.
It doesn't change the fact that the meal is being prepared and you're being ready for it to be presented to you. It just means that in the meantime, you are doing all you need to do to fully embrace that beautiful meal in the form of your spouse, your lover, your friend, your partner, whatever you want to call it. You understand what I'm saying?
We do.
You know?
See, let me ask you a
That-
question. I gotta ask you a
Okay.
question because
All
you are
right.
you're a lot like, you're like my mom, okay? And
Uh-huh.
people who know my mother know that my mom is very saucy. Like she's very feisty, you know, she
I
give it
know, that's why I love her.
Give it to you straight. And of course, because she's my mother, some of those traits are in me. So I think like even with you, you've been married for a very long time, okay? Because if we got married today, I mean, if we get married tomorrow, then that means that we'll be 70-something, 80-something by the time we get to where you at. So I say, okay, how do you handle, because people always say like male energy, feminine energy, like different people with different energies, and how women are too aggressive, they're too outspoken, they're too, I feel like you already answered it with just saying like, he gonna love you like you are, there's no other way.
Right.
But how did you handle that even when you were meeting your husband? Like, did you approach him? Did he approach you? Did you just fall together? Like, you know what I mean?
Wait, you know what? When I met my husband, he was not the kind of guy that I was most attracted to. When I was at Spelman, he was at Morehouse, and there was a group of us that used to meet on Spelman's campus behind Giles Hall. There used to be some like park benches, and the group of us would sit there and we just talk about one thing or another. But I had my eye on another guy that had the appearance of what I like. He was tall, he had a nice close crop beard, beautiful teeth, nice smile, you know. All right, so and my husband, you know, he was shorter, you know, and he didn't really smile that much. He was quiet, etc. And so I was looking all past him to the other guy that was on the bench. But the guy wasn't on, well, the guy on the bench, knowing my husband, was looking at me. So I thought, all right. But what made me so intrigued with my husband was that in the conversations we would have, they would be very interesting conversations. Like sometimes if some of the other people didn't show up and it may just be me and him sitting on the bench, there was still no romantic stuff going on. We would just have conversations, but he would make observations about people that he would see. And the observations were always like, do you see how this person is walking? They don't have confidence in themselves. And I was a psychology major, so I was loving all of that. Or, you know, what do you think about this and that? So we would have general conversations that gave me some insight into the way that he thinks about people and about life. And I found that he had a very respectful approach to how he saw other people, that he didn't see himself as better than or as less than. They were just it was just interesting topics like that. But then you're gonna laugh and he will kill me for saying this, but so you all are witness. If I show up missing, you know what happened. So one day, you know, I've always been heavy, right? So one day, we were just sitting down on the bench together, and he had my arm, and he was doing my arm like this. You know, I don't know if y'all can see. He was like, and so I said to him, I said, "Is your mama fat?" So he said to me, "Fat as a water buffalo." And so I thought, so this man likes fat, you know. And so we never had any other conversations about it. We never had any other conversations about it, I promise you. But I'm like, you know, and at the time, because I've always been heavy, I never thought of myself as fat or anything. I was just, it was me, you know. I've always been very comfortable with my body. So I was never concerned about fat or skinny. And I'm like, I was healthy. My dad always told me, he always said, "Janice, you're a pretty black girl. You're heavy, so you need to wear, you know, good foundation garments and so forth and so on." And my father is the one who would take me to get measured for my bras and take me to a boutique and get me measured for my undergarments, et cetera, et cetera. So in meeting my husband, we for a whole year, a whole school term, there was never any kind of suggestion about this date or anything. We would sit out with the others. We sit out and talk. If nobody showed up with us, we would sit out and talk. But in that period of time, I understood that he loved his family. He respected his mother. He didn't speak that much about his dad, but I knew that his dad was there in the home. And that he was very neat, and that he was pretty self-sufficient, and so and he was very respectful. Now, this is what that told me. That told me that if and when we decided to become intimate, that he would be respectful of me. That's what that told me. I had no idea when that would be. I wasn't really concerned about when that would be, because somehow I was always aware that I was in control of all of this, and that I wasn't at the realm of some smooth talking guy. Talk is cheap. I wanted to, what else you bring into the table besides some conversation? Everybody got a line. So, so I wasn't impressed with all of that, but I was very impressed with how he spoke about his family, his mom, life in general, other people, and how he expressed his opinion about himself. Now, I never asked him, what do you think about yourself? Or any direct question. I just listened. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of being observant. When you are observing someone, you learn a whole lot. And then it's up to you to decide to believe what you have observed. It's kind of like Maya Angelou said, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. You see? And a lot of times, if you become intimate too soon, you don't get to see who that person really is. You don't get the chance to see them when they can't figure out how to do something. Do they keep digging, or do they throw up their hands and run away like a little scared, whatever? Or do they simply make up their mind, you know what, I know there's a way to figure this thing out. I'm gonna ask until I find out, you see? So, yeah.
I love it. Maggie, you have to ask her our final thing so how we always close the show. Maggie's gonna say something.
So Mrs. Gibson, you have laid plenty of gems, wisdom, and knowledge. This has been awesome. In all of your sharing, what is one thing you would share with our married couples, with our single, or one just word, wisdom, guidance that you would leave with our audience as we close out this evening?
To everyone, married, single, uncommitted, not sure. The one thing I would leave for you is to trust the all-sufficient God that you are. The scripture says that Christ in you is the hope of glory. God dwells in you. When you look in the mirror, you are looking in the face of God. He says that we're created in his image and in his likeness. You've got to know that no other person is equipped to be all you need, nor are they obligated to be all you need. And they're not obligated to be all you want them to be. They're only obligated to be all God has created them to be. And sometimes that's more or less than what you are really going for. But the marriage or the partnership is not about completing you. That's your responsibility. When you understand that the God who created everything there is, and without him was nothing made, is dwelling in you, you then understand that you have all of the creative ability, all of the essence of who God is alive and at work in you. And you express that realness through the words of your mouth. It's kind of like, it's kind of like being hungry or thinking that, I think I want me some scrambled eggs. And you got a dozen eggs in the refrigerator. You don't sit around there and say, man, I sure wish I had me some scrambled eggs. All you have to do is really decide. You can go down there and get the eggs out and make some scrambled eggs. That's how you are. The all-sufficient God, the all-knowing, all-powerful, ever-present God is alive in you. That same God that created everything that you see, and all of that creative power is in you. It's like, I think it's in John, I believe. Can't remember the exact place in the scripture, but it says that it says that the same God, the same energy, the same power. That's the word that is used in the Old Testament, in the King James Version, and even in the Message Bible or the New King Version. It says the same power that raised Jesus from the dead and sat him at the right hand of the Father is the same power that is in you and for you to help you. That is the same power that created everything that we see. So all you have to do is be willing to be quiet before God and accept and acknowledge that that same power is in you, and through your word, in agreement with your understanding of who that power is in you, creates whatever you want. So then you are able to take the pressure off of your spouse, off of your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your platonic friends, off of everybody, off of your employer. You're able to take all of the pressure off of them for needing them to be who you need them or want them to be, because you have the creative force inside of you that creates every single thing that you need. He is your all-sufficient one. I don't care whether it's a matter of illness or lonesomeness or whatever. Your ability, once you acknowledge that, it's just like knowing you have all the ingredients in your refrigerator for whatever it is you want. You've got all the ingredients inside of you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you could ever desire. And once you understand that in a very practical, physical way, it takes all the pressure off the relationship. You'll be amazed at how happy you can be and how much you can enjoy folks, even when they don't make no sense. You can just have the best old time because inherent in understanding that all-sufficient God is in you as you. You know, you're looking in the mirror and you're not gonna see you're just gonna see your face. But again, I go back to that analogy about the shell. We're not talking about the physical you. We're talking about when you open that shell and the essence of who you are. That's in there. And so when you really grasp that, you don't need anybody to perform any kind of way, honey. You could be just as happy with life, and even when stuff smells, like it's going down the commode, you still can okay, so I can just create something else because you understand the power that you hold and exude. So that's know who you are. Know who you are.
Yes, we receive all of that. That's a great pre-Lovers Day, which is Monday, which I know everybody knows about it. So, you look in the mirror, love yourself. All you need
That's
is
right.
you.
And treat yourself.
Yes, that's right. I believe in treatment.
Yes.
We believe in it, whether that be retail therapy, whether that may be getting my hair done, my nails done.
That's right. That's right.
We believe in that. Our group believes in treating ourselves.
That's right. Treat yourself.
I believe
that's right. That's exactly right.
Going to the movies by myself.
Yes.
What you say, Tanya?
No, and I said, and I'm not scared to treat myself by myself.
Yep.
I'm
right.
not afraid to go sit at a restaurant.
Yep.
Treat myself to dinner. Go to the movies by myself. Some people don't like that.
That's right.
That's right. Because remember, you're in the meantime. You're not waiting. You're in the meantime. You've already put your order in.
Amen.
That's right.
I sure did.
And that's right. So, and we love it because you just gave us a little Thursday, but it's still a little Bible study with a little bit of It was great.
But hey,
It was
It's the,
great.
it's the essence of who we are.
I'm gonna say that you're true to who you are. So
That's right.
that's why I brought you. You came to do and say everything I wanted you to say. It's been such a privilege having you in our lives.
I've loved it.
So long. Goodness gracious. We've known you for so long, and I can't believe we're getting ready to transition into another decade of our lives. I'm not rushing it, but we're moving towards that way, and everything is looking great. And you really just started off this show this season amazing. I want to say that my name is Victoria L. Again, that's Maggie, Tanya, and of course, the star of the show today, Miss Janice Marie Gibson. Yes, we love you so much. Guys, make sure you follow us, like it, to converse with it. Let us know what you want to hear. If you want to come on the show, let us know. YouTube it, Instagram it, all those things. Be safe out here, and we will see you guys later. Happy Valentine's
Thank you. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Bye.